This is lesson 3.5 on graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. The essential question here is how can you describe the graph of the equation y equals mx plus b? Now, the first core concept you got to think about is slope. The slope, which is designated by the m letter, of a non-vertical line passing through 2 points is the ratio of the rise, the change in the y, to the run, the change in the x. Slope equals m, which equals rise over run, which equals the change in y over the change in x. When the line raises from left to right, the slope is positive. When the line falls from left to right, the slope is negative. So let's look at our first example here, describing the slope of each line. If we're looking here at this line, our rise on A here is going to be 4. Our run is 6. So rise over run is 4 over 6, which simplifies to 2/3. If we're looking at B here, it shows that the rise is a -3 and the run is 2. So the slope, or the m, is -3 over 2. And see, A is going up from left to right, so it's a positive slope, and B is going down from left to right, so it's a negative slope. Now looking at example 2 here, we can also find slope from a table. The points represented by each table lie on a line. How can you find the slope of each line from the table? And what is the slope of each line? Well, you can choose any 2 points from the table and use the slope formula. That was that m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, we can do that with any of 2 points here on these graphs. So remember that equation is slope, or m, is going to equal y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's just pick a couple points right here. I'll just pick the first 2 points here. And I'm going to get, we'll call this y2, y1, x2, x1. So the change in y, so I'm going to have 20 minus 14 all over 4 minus 7. So 20 minus 14 is going to give me 6, and 4 minus 7 is going to give me a -3. Simplified, that's -2. So my slope here for this table is -2. So let's go ahead and try that again with my B here. Note that if you look here, you'll notice that there is no change in the y value. On all of these, the y value is 2. So, when you choose any 2 points on the table, say this one and this one, you're going to get 2 minus 2 on the top and 1 minus a -1 on the bottom, which is going to be 0 over 2, which is still going to be just 0. So there is a 0 slope. It doesn't mean no slope, it just means that there is a 0 slope. And on our third form here, you can notice that there is no change here with the x values. All the x values are the same. So when we do this, you're going to have, let's just pick the first two again, you're going to have negative 3 minus 0 over negative 3 minus negative 3. So you're going to get negative 3 over 0. And remember, you can never have 0 in the denominator. So this doesn't work. That means it's undefined. That means there is no slope. That's when you have no slope. That's because this is going to be a vertical line. B here is going to be a horizontal line, and C is going to end up being a vertical line. Now looking at our concept summary, this kind of shows you here. Notice the left to the right, the line rises from the left to right, positive slope. Going down left to right, negative slope. Horizontal line, slope of 0. Undefined slope, that's when you hit that wall, the line is vertical. Now, how can we use this slope? This is when we use the slope-intercept form. A linear equation written in the form of y equals mx plus b is in slope-intercept form. The slope of the line is m, and the y-intercept is the b. So if we can get it in this form here, you can figure out right away what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. So let's look at some examples here. Identifying slopes and y-intercepts. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each linear equation. Remember, we have y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, and b is your y-intercept. Okay, if you're looking here at A, you've got y equals 3x plus 4. 3x minus 4. Well, we want it in this form of y equals mx plus b. The only difference I really have here is that I have minus b instead of plus b. So I'm just going to rewrite this as y equals my mx plus a negative 4. So then looking at this, remember we said y equals mx plus b. So that means if you look right here, this right here is going to be your m. So my m, or my slope, is 3. And then right here is my y-intercept. So my b, or my y-intercept, is negative 4. So let's look at this next one here. We have y equals 6.5. Well, it's not quite in that y equals mx plus b, so let's figure out how we can do that. So we're going to rewrite this so that it looks like y equals something x plus my 6.5. Well, since I don't have an x term, how do I show that? Well, that's simply 0x, because 0 times any number is going to be 0. So, again, we're looking at that y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. We've got our m right here, so our slope here is 0. And my b right here, so my y-intercept right here is 6.5. Now on this one, it's not quite in there, so we've got to move some stuff around to get it there and get the y by itself. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. That's going to cross out that negative 5x, but remember now, bring down that negative sign. I've got negative y equals 5x minus 2. Now I've got to get rid of this minus sign, so I divide by negative 1. And that's going to be y equals negative 5x plus 2. And like we said here, we'll put this y equals mx plus b. So it shows that our slope, or our m, is -5, and our b, or y-intercept, is right there at 2. So go ahead, do your clever assignment, make sure you bring up your notes so that I can check them off, and get started on that clever assignment.